My name is Laurence Tratalos, and I was born in the city of Manchester to my parents, Adrian and Rebecca Tratalos. I decided to spend my year abroad at the University of New Mexico, and as I didn't go home at Christmas, my father decided to visit me over spring break. We discussed and dialogued as we drove through the southwest of America. This video records part of these conversations.
Spain was very popular. People started going to Spain for the first time because overseas travel became cheaper. Anyway, so we went to this bullfight, and when the matador killed the bull, he threw the ears into the crowd, and I caught one of them. I started getting in with a bad crowd, really, in the local area in Cholton. Started smoking and drinking, and we used to do something called gardening, which was running from one garden to another, people's houses. I mean, never stealing, but it was just an adventure, you know, as I say. And one time I remember we climbed on a factory roof, and anyway, the opposite security realised, and they called the police, and I was arrested and taken home to my parents, and they weren't very impressed about that. And we used to just hang around the street corners, really, smoking and talking and meeting girls, you know, so there wasn't any club or anything like that we used to go to. Well, for a start, there was no internet.
Did you like that, did you?
Yeah, because, you know, people used to, when they wanted to talk to each other, they used to go and see each other. People were healthier. There wasn't as much obesity. There was no fast food. Food wasn't processed in the way it is now. In the main, most people cooked their own food. Whereas now, you know, I think the average person just goes to the supermarket and buys pre-packaged processed food, which is full of salt and sugar. But I think there was probably a better sense of community with the little shops everywhere, and the shopkeepers all used to know their customers. Whereas nowadays it's all very anonymous, isn't it? You know, you'd even have situations whereby, you know, local storekeepers would know their customers, and they would even give them credit sometimes when they thought, you know, things were tight or the husband hadn't been paid or something. You know, they'd allow them to have food and they'd pay them the following week. So generally people were far less prosperous. But, and it sounds a cliche, but I suspect people were generally a bit happier because they seemed more contented with their lot and what they had. You know, they were quite happy to go away for 2 weeks to Wales on their holidays or whatever. Whereas nowadays, with all these reality TV programs, everybody wants to be famous. When I was being brought up, I used to love spending time with my grandparents because my grandfather was a real hero. He was a boxer, and my mother used to tell me about all the times when he used to be fighting, and he'd come home. After his fight, he always used to go and throw a stone up at my grandmother's window before they were married to tell her that he was home safely, then that he'd won, because he'd won all the matches apart from one. You know, I remember a lot about my grandparents, really, because my grandfather was more of a sort of patriarchal father figure than my father was, really, because my father was very selfish. He wasn't really interested in his children. I greatly admire the majesty of the scenery in America, the open spaces. I feel as though I'm missing the Shire, which I think was based on England. These little country lanes and cottages and. Well, really, for most people, I think the most important thing is relationships in life, isn't it?